This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, joined by Timmy. How are we all? How was the first football weekend? How does it feel?
It's definitely good to have week one in the books. I'm hoping for a better week two. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure we'll talk about that very shortly, but it was very good to have a full week of football for the first time in, 9 months?
Yeah, it's been first time in a long time.
I thoroughly enjoyed week one. I thought every game was entertaining in one way, shape, or form. Obviously, we got our share of ugly football. We got a few blowouts. We had some mostly good games, though, I thought. Not anything great. There wasn't anything spectacular, but just entertaining enough. I think this upcoming week, is going to be a really weird week of football. There's some weird matchups. We've got a weird layout. We got 10 early games, 3 late games, or 3 afternoon games, I should say. And then, we got the 8 o'clock game. But, weird week. Me and you are going to be in Nashville, and I'm very routine based. So I'm interested to see how this football Sunday is going to go for me. But, it was a great week one. I thought literally every single game in one way, shape, or form was entertaining.
Yeah, I was very entertained with the entirety of week one. It was a great week of football. I mean, I understand what Timmy's saying in the sense of there was a lot of close games, but I understand there wasn't as much kind of standout, but a lot of things did still stand out because it's the NFL and every week's a standout week in the NFL. But I'm going to start it off here real quick. I mean, actually, Kyle, you had something that you wanted to do. Did you want to do that now, or did you want to wait on it?
We can start with you first before we go to that segment.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted to base that around the whole thing or the segment. Gerard Mayo, is he the real deal already?
Undefeated.
Oh boy. Okay, so the Patriots offense did exactly what I expected. Ball control, not a whole lot. They didn't need to do a whole lot, apparently, because either one of two things is true or both is true. The Bengals offense and the Bengals, obviously, week one and week two, the last few years have not been great, but Joe Burrow usually doesn't come in healthy. He's fine. Unless you're telling me Joe Burrow's hand, which it was flexing a little bit, which when I said I want to wait until week one, now, Kyle, if you would have asked me after what we talked about before, a little concerned. Looked a little shaky with the whole wrist thing. Had no idea going in. Looked a little shaky. Anyways, but if you would have told me the Patriots only scored 16, I'd been like, that makes sense. You want to know why? Because I predicted them to score 16. I expected the Bengals to score 35, and they scored a big whopping 10. So shout out to Gerard Mayo. That's a great first win. I don't care what Bengals team you're getting. When you have Joe Burrow on the field, he was still 20 of 26. He just really couldn't extend the ball down the field. I think it was only 3 of 6 on passes over 10 yards. So still a good defensive plan. They got everything that they needed to. Ramondre Stevenson looked very good. And then it makes me happy because the defense didn't take a step back, and hopefully going forward it continues. And if they don't take a step back, that just means once this offense gets semi-right, they're back in the fold.
Back and fold is
well, sorry. They're back into competing and trying to get themselves into playoff-ish contender style, not playoff contender kind of style, not actual
right.
Back in the fold with the Patriots. You're right, Kyle. That's AFC Championship every year. Not back in that.
In
the playoff run. If and they can do it the next couple of years.
Playoffs is even tough this year just because of their schedule.
Oh, not this year.
It's crazy that them being a last place team, they have the toughest schedule in the league this year. Them and the Niners. So their schedule is super tough. But, man, to knock off the Bengals in week one makes it a little bit easier. I mean, they got the Seahawks coming for their home debut, right? Mm-hmm. And the Seahawks look good. If you're a Seahawks fan, you probably got a lot of what you liked. The defense improved. The running game was great. Geno looked good enough. But going against how that Pats defense looked.
The Broncos gave them problems for 2.5 quarters, in fairness. Like, the Broncos are two safeties.
Yeah. I think the Seahawks gave themselves more problems than the Broncos did. I mean, I think Bo Nix looked like a rookie. But, I mean, it seems like a winnable game, and it seems like 2-0 is very attainable for the Pats, which I wasn't on my radar.
Nah.
And,
no, I wasn't on my radar either.
I got to be honest, going into the season, I wasn't looking forward to this Pats season very much. Like, you heard me talk about, I just want to see well coached. I just want to see like consistency, competing. We got more of that and then some on Sunday. But what upset me the most, that's exactly what I've wanted, since Brady left, was just ball control. I mean, if you've listened to the show the last 2 years, you would hear me talk about like how I really wasn't worried about the Pats' weapons because the defense was so good. I thought Ramondre was such a formidable back that they could do the whole ball control thing, that you're seeing the Chargers do, that you're seeing, any team with a strong running back and maybe not the strongest receiving core do, as long as you have an accurate quarterback. And I feel like they could have done that with Mac Jones. And it pissed me off a little bit just because I feel like we could have done that. Like that roster wasn't drastically different from the last 2 years. And that was everything I've been wanting from the last 2 years was ball control. That's one thing about Jacoby. I mean, I don't want to go too far here on the Pats, but Jacoby was probably the best backup in the league, along with a few others. Like he's right on the borderline of starting quality, but a top tier backup.
Him, Tyler Huntley, Jameis Winston, those kind of guys. Where you're like
those kind of guys. Yeah. And I mean, the big standout really, if you're the Pats, is the offensive line. They held up pretty well, protected Jacoby pretty well, and he was able to be comfortable in the pocket. Night and day from preseason. Like, you just don't see that turnaround. If it's going to be bad in preseason, you would think it's going to be bad in week 1. And it really wasn't. Not only did they win against the Bengals, they dominated from quarter 1 to quarter 4 in every facet of the game. And let's segue right now. We're going to do overrated, underrated, properly rated. And let's start with the Bengals. Is that loss overrated? Is that loss underrated? Or is it properly rated? It's just a week 1 loss. The Bengals come in sloppy and, out of shape as usual. Is it business as usual, or is it more?
I'm going to say it's properly rated. Like you just said, week 1 for the Bengals is always tough. It always happens. Recently, it's been a preseason thing, but it's just what they are. Every time. They don't get going until like week 3, I feel like. And then another thing is, the Bengals always seem to have a tough time playing the Patriots. Last year, the Patriots almost beat them, right? It was a very close game. So I would say it's properly rated. I'm definitely shocked. Definitely said on the podcast that, the -8 points was a lock and everybody should be betting that, and that did not look too good. But I think the entire world thought that. I really don't think that there's a Pats fan that was like, yeah, we are going to win week 1. Maybe optimistic, but nobody was definitely banking on it. So I will say that. And then I did want to say that my biggest takeaway was the offensive line looked night and day based on last year. Huge. It didn't even look amazing. There were definitely still times when the pocket was collapsing a little early. Or the holes weren't great. Like, I'm pretty sure Ramondre had the most yards after contact, which sounds like a great stat, but that means he's getting contacted early on every single run play, and he has to run through them. And he did, and that's a great thing. Ramondre definitely looked healthy and like he was rejuvenated. But I'm going to say this is a properly rated loss for those factors.
So I would actually go with properly rated, because I think if you think the sky is falling in Cincinnati, it's overrated. But I also think if it's like nothing at all, then it's a little underrated in the sense. So I think it is properly rated because I believe when you see it, this matters more to me, like seeding wise, in playoff, like mindset wise, because now you have the Chiefs. So now you have the Chiefs, and if that's obviously a losable game, you're going to KC. So just say you lose it. You start 0-2 instead of being 1-1, which you should be. So then that makes it tough. But then you do have the Commanders on a Monday night, and then you do have the Panthers. So, like, I understand the Commanders are going to not just be a pushover because Jaden Daniels is a dynamic quarterback. But I'm going to say it now. I'm going to pretty much book the Panthers win. If they lose to the Panthers, they're not making the playoffs. Maybe trade Burrow. Like maybe like unless he's injured like that bad, like maybe trade Burrow. This Panthers team should not beat you. I don't care who's on the road. They should not beat you. But anyways, so like you can get back to 2-2 going into that Ravens game, and then you have a Giants game. So coming out of these first couple weeks, I thought they were going to be 4-2 coming out of these first 6 weeks anyway. If they can split with the Ravens or Chiefs and then they beat the other teams that they should, then they come out 4-2, it's not too big of a deal. So it basically, they're going to dictate how big this loss is. But I think as of right now, it's properly rated.
I think it's slightly underrated for this reason. They do have the Chiefs this week, as you said. Spoiler alert, they're going to lose that game. There's no way the team that showed up last Sunday against the Pats is beating the Chiefs or even coming close.
Oh, no, if they show up like that, they're getting their doors blown off and we'll be over by halftime.
There's no reason for me to think that they will beat the Chiefs at all, like at all. So for that reason, it's slightly underrated. But like you said, Keenan, they get, the Panthers and the Giants after that?
They get the Commanders, the Panthers, the Ravens, the Giants.
And then I believe they have a tough game after the Giants. So I expect them to be 4-4 after.
They have the Browns, the Eagles, then the Raiders, Ravens, Chargers. So like they have a schedule that's tough enough, but at the end of the season they have a little bit lighter. It also depends on how you feel about the Browns. Like the Browns are kind of like the Patriots in the way the Patriots played, which is can control a ball, play really good defense. We don't trust the quarterback really.
Right. Yeah. For whatever reason, the Browns are a Bengals kryptonite. So again, slightly underrated, but not. You can't overreact because of the schedule that's coming up. That being said, you did see Burrow shaking his hand. Christian Gonzalez, by the way, we didn't talk about him enough. He straight up put the clamps on Jamar Chase. I believe he's only had 5 or 6 career games, and in each game he's held all Pro Bowl receivers, like upper echelon receivers to, like Darrelle Revis type stats. No joke.
He was going to walk away with Defensive Player of the Year last year, and then he got injured.
Yeah,
genuinely was going to walk away with it. I don't care
sure.
who was like. He was just going to walk away with it.
For sure. So again, you want to lean properly rated, but there's a part of this with the Bengals where you can't just keep coming in to week 1, week 2, week 3, the first month of the season. You can't just walk through it like it's the preseason. I compare it to I compare it to the preseason, given the play calling. Like we'll talk about the Lions, but I thought the play calling in Detroit was very vanilla, right? That's what I talk about when I say preseason. The Bengals literally look like they're just like, you know what, we'll throw away the first 4 games and, we'll catch up after that. That's a lot of hubris to do that in the NFL.
You can do that when you're the Patriots with Brady Belichick. You can do that if you're the Chiefs.
Even then,
but they didn't throw it away.
They would do what the Lions did and say, okay, if it's a 3rd and 8, then we'll pull out some sort of good play calling.
They're not going to show their hand essentially in the preseason. You're gonna test out this person. You're gonna test out this person. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. But still, like I use those 2 teams because those are multiple Super Bowl winning teams.
Sure.
Like dynastic runs from both of them. So it's like they deserve and they have the right to do that. The Bengals are in their we need to win now mode, and that is not a good start to the season.
For sure. And, if you're a Bengals fan, you can say, oh, they didn't have T. Higgins, but there was no explosive plays. That defense looked weak. The defense didn't look great last year. It looked good in spots, but you want to see some consistency. I mean, Keenan, you were on here last week talking about this is the year they're dialed in. Burrow's going to be dialed in. Jamar Chase is going to be dialed in. And to some degree, I didn't necessarily see like them coming off as world beaters, but I definitely thought week 1 would be a little more locked in, a little more fluid. The offense was going to look a little better. And, I'm doing my game picks last week. I'm on the FanDuel app and throwing the Bengals into some surefire parlays. And, once I put them in 3 or 4, I'm kind of thinking maybe the Pats could, because there's always that one team, right? And we all thought it was the Panthers. Or if someone thought it was going to be the Commanders this week, sure. But nobody on earth, no one in the NFL universe thought it was going to be the Pats. And, there was sometimes I'm like, maybe the Pats, but ultimately you're like, no, the Bengals are going to get it done. And for them to only put up 10 points, and again, be dominated in every facet of the game. Slightly underrated, but also slightly underrated for the Pats, because who knows where that could lead. Because Gerard Mayo, he did his damn thing. For sure.
Absolutely. Did you want to go into just another one and we'll bounce off of that for teams, or did you want to go into games, Kyle?
I got a few more.
Okay, good. Just bounce off of that, and then we'll kind of go from there with the games.
I got plenty more. Off the top, though, let me give you the Bucs, right? We'll do 2 NFC South, but we'll start with the Buccaneers on this side. Buccaneers win against the Commanders. Overrated, underrated, properly rated.
On you, Tim.
I'm actually going to say underrated here. I think I was a little low on the Bucs. I think we all were kind of low on the Bucs. I guess it does make sense. So I think it could very well just be properly rated. The Commanders' defense is bad. It was terrible last year. The reason why I was higher on them was because I thought Dan Quinn would help turn that around. That clearly is not the case, at least not yet, not with the talent that they have. I will stick with underrated just because the Bucs definitely did surprise me a little bit. With Baker dropping 4 touchdowns, wasn't expecting that. So, yeah.
I would say a little bit underrated in this aspect. The Buccaneers are a team that last year blew the doors off the Eagles and played with the Lions. Like, that game was close throughout the entirety of the game until Baker threw a late pick, but he was trying to force the issue late in the game. So they are playing with a team that obviously just went then afterwards and played with the 49ers. Not that every game is made equal, but like they returned most of that same team. Baker got a contract, a pretty good contract, 3 for $100 million, but this team has a lot of good pieces to it. It's the same. It's a lot of the same team that Tom Brady had. Obviously, Ryan Jensen was a big piece for Tom Brady. I don't believe he is there. And then otherwise than that, like they're pretty much the same kind of team. The Baker Mayfield to Mike Evans connection, low key, is one of the best quarterback to wide receiver connections in the league. They've been that last year, and they're doing that again this year. It's not exactly when you think of, it's Burrow Chase, but the production they put up is close to. So like you have to give them credit for that. And so I think this team knows what they are. They are underdogs always, so they're looking like Baker with that underdog chip is playing that role very well, and I think this team is definitely a formidable opponent in the NFC. I think they're picking up right where they left off last year, and if they continue that, they could easily get back to a divisional round. But again, this is week 1, and obviously the biggest overreaction is Monday, week 1. Obviously, this is not Monday, but it's week 1 overreactions. But I was saying a little underrated.
I'm going to say properly rated. Underrated just off of my pick, technically, because I picked the Commanders to win. But it's properly rated because I felt like an idiot because I'm watching that game unfold. I'm watching how comfortable the Bucs looked. And they were the team last year who took care, for the most part, of all the teams beneath them. And like you said, the teams above them, they could at least play with. In some cases, beat them. But that's where Bowles doesn't get enough credit. Bowles is a good enough coach to where he's not going to lose you games against lesser teams. And I guess same with Baker, too. Baker's obviously righted his ship. He's continuing it in week 1, right? So properly rated in the case that's exactly what we saw last year. And me, at least, I'm going to say my dumb ass just overlooked that and just picked, I thought the new blood and the Commanders were going to be what the Patriots were on Sunday, but the Bucs just said no. I mean, they handled their business and then some against the Commanders. They looked good all around, and I want to couple that with the Falcons' loss. How do we feel about that? Underrated, overrated, properly rated? I'm going to start because Kirk Cousins, he only played out of the pistol and out of shotgun. He did not play under center. I don't even know if we mentioned it. We might have mentioned it last time, but he tore his Achilles 2 months after Aaron Rodgers tore his. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers tore his in week 1. I think it was either early November or late October when Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles.
I think they were 4-2 or something like that because they were kind of cooking, and Carrick was playing probably the best football of his career, if not close to.
And I remember there was like frost on the ground, so it had to have been at least early November. So And he's coming back week 1 again off the worst sports injury you can possibly have. And I think a lot of us overlooked that. And they did not have him under center. They did not want him putting pressure on his Achilles. And it didn't look great. I mean, he threw for a touchdown, but that's not an injury where you can really just like work your way back from. So I'm really interested if they start off 0-4, which they very well could. They got the Eagles on Monday night. I think that's going to be a blowout. What happens? Do we see Penix early? Do they just throw away this season? Because, man, I just feel like that was very much under talked about in football circles. The fact that he's coming back so early from this terrible injury. So how do you guys feel about it? Because I feel like it's underrated, this loss. I feel like it could lead to, like, I'm already overthinking, like, maybe the Falcons do not make the playoffs. Like, this is the Bucs division to lose. How do y'all feel?
Timmy, you go.
I would say this is definitely an underrated loss. Like you said, they only ran out of pistol and out of shotgun. It didn't look like they wanted Kirk to take any drops to really, like, push that Achilles. Another thing, when they ran out of pistol, they threw 6% of the time. I'm pretty sure the stat was. That's just terrible coaching that they would allow that, because you're just telling the defense what you're doing. Like, and this is a very good defense. It's going to be a good defense every single year, and it's got a game record with T.J. Watt, who, first of all, let's give T.J. Watt his praise. Nobody picked him to be Defensive Player of the Year, but he damn well could be if he continues looking like that. But definitely an underrated loss. I am now 100% worried about Kirk and the Achilles. I was definitely not on that train to begin the season, but now seeing this game, it is definitely not fully healed, not fully ready. Kirk, I could tell you right now, if he has to run any yards to get a first down, he's not going to be able to. It's just a risk. To speak on the Michael Penix, I think the deal is, if they are, let's say if they get to week 8 and they only have like 3 wins, they're calling it right there. I think they're going to say, let's let Kirk get healthy, bring him back next year. Let's test Penix, see if we can at least get him some starts so that when we do start him, he is actually ready for it. I think that's my take on that. But underrated loss for sure.
Let me give you the stats on the pistol formation. I want to say 96% of the snaps were out of shotgun or pistol. Out of the 22 that were out of the shotgun, 0 design runs. And then of the 26 snaps out of the pistol, the Falcons ran the ball on 81% of their plays. So very predictable play calling.
I had the stat backwards. But... little bit, but no reason to think that that's going to change in week 2, nor week 3 or week 4. I mean, I think it's I don't know who they play in week 3 or week 4, but I think it's an obvious loss.
I'll get into that.
Sure. I think it's a very obvious loss for them against the Eagles, much like I think, the Bengals are going to lose against the Chiefs. But it already might be time to sound the alarm. That's crazy to think. Got to say, Keenan, I forgot to respond to this about the Burrow trade. I didn't know we were doing an NBA pod. That's like classic NBA pod right there, talking about trade talk.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, get him out. And that was more so just being facetious, but, like, if they lose the Panthers, we might need to call for his job. Like, he might need to go somewhere. But, anyways, so I think in the grand scheme, it is underrated if you're talking about just Kirk Cousins. I think it's properly rated if you're just talking about the loss, and it's because of the fact that TJ Watt is a different kind of player. Like, and he is one of 4 or 5 guys in the league that can legitimately wreck a game. Like, you give him one on the win column. It's TJ, it's Miles, it's Micah. We don't see it as much with like a full game with Micah, but obviously he can. And then, like, it's depending on where Aiden Hutchinson is, and then Max Crosby is the other one to me. But really, TJ Watt it's him and Myles Garrett for your top 2 game records. He is a problem. But so I agree. So I will agree with you guys, because obviously what we're worried about with the Falcons is not just how week 1 went. We're trying to project the future, and Kirk Cousins will be an issue. So you're wondering who they're playing week 3, Kyle? They're playing the 2-time defending champions week 3 in the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're playing them at home though. But so So what you're doing is you're giving Xavier Worthy, probably Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes a dome. So that's really cool for them. That's going to be fun. And then they play the Saints afterwards, which by that point we might see that the Saints aren't actually as bad as we thought, ? I don't know. I mean, again, I don't take anything against that Panthers loss because it's the Panthers. So, like, I need to see them against a human being team, then we'll figure it out there. You've got the Eagles, the Chiefs, and then you got the Saints, Bucks, and Carolina. I think if he starts 0-5 or 1-4, then you probably would go. I would go to Penix, truly, because if you lose to the Eagles, that's 0-2. You lose to the Chiefs, that's 0-3. Say you beat the Saints and then lose to the Bucks. They have a Buck that's a Sunday, Thursday, which makes it tough, but that's 1-4. And if he doesn't look good, then I think you go to Penix because that's a 10-day break. You get a time to actually get him back, and then you have Penix first game against the Panthers. You got to think that you don't want to just put your rookie in there in a terrible spot. That's if Kirk doesn't look good. There's a difference if he's just not playing well or if he doesn't even look like he can be out there. If he's just if he looks healthier by week 3, he's moving, he's fine, but they lose because obviously losing to the Chiefs and the Eagles is not a bad thing, and they split with their division. I would still roll with Kirk because they have a winnable second half. They play the Saints. They play Denver. They play Minnesota. They play the Raiders, which is a possible win. They play the Giants, Washington, Carolina. That's how they end their season. So they end their season with teams that we expect to be lesser. So if you have Kirk Cousins and he's actually healthy, then I would roll with him. But if Kirk doesn't look good by week 5, I would let Penix roll with this because I still think that if you just get a solid quarterback play, that this team could still make a push for the playoffs in the division. Because I don't think the Bucs are going to run and hide. I don't think they're 11-6, 12-5 kind of thing. I think they're 9-8, 10-7, and I still think with the Falcons' weak schedule towards the end of the season that they can get to 9 wins.
That's what's crazy about this is they could have started Penix. Let's say they just said, hey, we're going to start him September and bring back Kirk in October. But there's that chance that Penix would look way too good for them to put Kirk in. But that would have been the smart thing, especially when they've more than said it's going to be a 2-year plan with Kirk. I don't see what the problem would have been. Aside from there's a chance he would have lit it up and, the entire Falcons fan base would have been like, fuck Kirk, let's put Penix in. But, man, that's a lot better than digging yourself an 0-4, 0-5 hole, which I think could happen. I got a few more for you guys before we move on. Let's try to get through these a little quickly, I guess. But Bryce Young, week 1 performance. Should we be worried? Is that underrated, overrated, properly rated? What do you think?
I am very worried about Bryce Young. He's got accuracy issues, and that is crazy to say because his biggest pro on his draft report was that he is incredibly accurate. The Panthers building their front office literally said, hey, this guy is so accurate, we don't have to get wide receivers to help him. He'll be fine. That obviously didn't work out, and now it's showing it again. Year 2, they got Deontay Johnson. I like him, and I like Xavier Legette. Don't get me wrong. But Adam Thielen looked like the best wide receiver, and the biggest thing is, one play, Young is accurate. He makes a nice pass, puts it right where it needs to be, and then the very next play, it's completely off the mark, and you just get this back and forth all game long. The Panthers are going to be, I think, the worst team in the league. I'm already confident enough to change my prediction on this team. I'm very, very worried. So I guess you would say that's underrated.
So changing it from overrated, underrated. Your hand's on the panic button. You're sounding the panic button right now.
I'm pressing the panic button. I think Bryce Young. I just think he's not it. I think we didn't see it last year, and I think he just picked up right where he left off this year.
So, Keenan, you pressing the button? Is your hand on the button, or is your hand in your pocket, and you're just going to wait and see maybe 8 months?
So there's two separate buttons here. The Bryce Young button just himself, and the Bryce Young in Carolina button. The Bryce Young in Carolina button's being pushed down with 2 hands. The Bryce Young button, it's hovering. And here's the reason why. He is a 6-foot quarterback. They have some good offensive line pieces. That's the one thing that they have. They have a couple good offensive line pieces. But they don't have great weapons. I know he's supposed to be accurate, but they also don't have a good organization. They don't really have an offense around him. It's not working out. They're going to have the number 1 pick this year. You trade Bryce Young, get whatever you can for him, get him a quarterback. I think in the right system with the right offense that Bryce Young could do some good things in the NFL. I think if you get him into the right position with the right coach, with the good skill position players, I don't know if he's a guy who can just go like CJ Stroud was last year. I understand that like Tank Dell really emerged, Nico Collins emerged, but like also you have to credit that too to CJ Stroud and helping them elevate themselves. Obviously, D'Amico Ryans showed to be a really good first-year head coach, but CJ Stroud was able to elevate an organization that wasn't good. It's only been solid. It's been solid a few, but like they're not really a great organization. And he took them up to now. We think that there are people out there who really believe they can go win a Super Bowl this year. So, do I think Bryce Young can be that? No, but do I think he could be more in the Tua vein, where if you put everything around him and you put him in a great system, can he make throws? I think yes. I think he would need to be in that system. Like I think if you put him in Miami right now, not that he'd be exactly what Tua is, but I think you would see a lot of success out of him comparatively to. Because I think if you put Tua in Carolina, it wouldn't be good. I don't think he'd be great.
I feel like you could put me in that Miami offense and, I'd be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And when you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, they have so much speed. Or, yeah, you're right. But obviously, we think if you were to put someone obviously this is the greatest example, but Mahomes in Carolina, they would be something. Like he would make them. He's so good that he could make them at least into something, kind of thing.
I'll say this: my hand's on the button. One thing I do want to say, and I've said this many times: divisional games are always a little weird, but especially so in the NFC South. Like my entire life, you cannot predict a single NFC South game. 47-3 was that the final score, or
47-10?
47-10. Bryce Young's first throw of the season was a pick. His second throw in the second half was a pick. It could not have started worse. And Dave Canales, he's credited with the Baker revival, maybe even the Geno revival the year before. I could be wrong about that, but he's known as a quarterback whisperer. They have their first home game on Sunday, so I'm going to give them a slight benefit of the doubt. But, if he comes out on Sunday and looks like he did this past Sunday, I'm sounding the alarm for sure. I am punching the red button if that's the case. And I feel bad because he does, by all accounts, seem like a good locker room guy, like a good kid in general. Obviously had the skills to be taken number 1. The Bears get the Panthers' second-round pick next year, so it's bad all around. I mean, we talk about all the time about how Deshaun's trade might be the worst trade in NFL history. That's right up there too. That could overtake it for me because at least the Browns are competitive right now. Nothing looks redeeming about the Panthers, and kind of feel bad for Panthers fans, man, because it went from them being kind of like the Texans, where like you just mentioned them as a franchise. Like you'll have your years where the Texans are good, especially in the 2010s. They were good for the most part, had their down years. Panthers too, like they had the Delhomme years. After that, they had some up and down years, but snuck into the playoffs here and there. Then they obviously had the Cam years, which were very fun until it ended, but now they're like the Cleveland Browns of old. Like they can't get anything right. And you couldn't have had it worse week 1. I mean, the Saints looked like Super Bowl contenders in that game. So I'm going to wait till week 2. But if it's anything like week 1, man, there is nothing redeemable about that team. So off that, though, another panic button one. Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 catch, 4 yards. Me and Keenan have been bullish, to say the least, about
Throw
Marvin
the panic button away. I'm not even concerned about it. Just throw it away.
Throwing it out
Get
there.
the panic. I don't even want it near me. Get the panic button away from me. I understand. Sorry to cut you off. I understand his week 1 did not look great. I understand. They ran the ball out with James Conner. I like James Conner this year a lot. Fantasy-wise, I liked him before the draft. I liked him now. Trey McBride, he was looking a lot at Greg Dortch. He has a rapport with Greg Dortch. That is perfectly fine. Kyler Murray, PSA, figure out how to get the ball to him. Hey, Arizona, figure out how to get the ball to him. He's going to change life for you there if you get the ball to him.
Did y'all hear Kyler's quote today?
I did not hear Kyler's quote today.
He said,
"Should I go get my panic button out of the trash."
They asked him about, hey, not many targets, 1 catch for 4 yards. Kyler said something to the effect, it's not my job to get him the ball. I would argue it's literally the quarterback's job to get their stud wide receiver the ball.
I gotta go search. But I have to search for the panic button out of the trash. Like what? I mean, I'm not panicked about Marvin. Like if someone has a problem, someone trade for. Like go put him on the Chiefs or something, so I can watch this guy go get $1,800 a year. Like, no, I'm not. But him as a player, I'm not panicked. I'm not.
Tim,
throw the panic button away.
I'm definitely not panicked on Marvin. With that stat line, it was 1 catch for 4 yards.
Yep.
They still were right in the game the whole time. If you're talking about doing what it takes to win the game, they could have won the game if they threw it to Marvin because he was wide open on their final drive. And if he makes that pass, then the stat line looks fine because he would have had 2 catches for 50-something yards and a touchdown, and nobody would have been saying anything. I do think it is his job to get Marvin the ball. That's their first-round pick. That's their top 5 pick. And he's a generational player. I think it could have just been the case that, Kyler obviously understands that he didn't get him the ball enough, and that question might tick him off because obviously they lost the game in part to him not getting him the ball. And
Can I read the quote?
So, yeah, go ahead.
sure.
I wouldn't say the Bills were taking Marvin Harrison away. As a quarterback, obviously you're going through your reads. Sometime the ball goes to him. That's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for when guys don't get the ball and when they are getting the ball, but I leave that up to offensive coordinator Drew Penzing. Basically just saying there, don't need to get him the ball. When I was watching Tom Brady talk to Stephen A. Smith a lot, no, I was listening because I've been watching a lot of Tom Brady this offseason because Tom Brady's been everywhere. He was like, yeah, no, you've got to get your guys the ball. They literally just run out there a bunch of yards away from everybody else, only having conversations with the cornerback. So got to get them the ball at some points to make sure they're engaged. And that's why you see a lot of the times, I'm obviously when Tyreek Hill was wherever, now Tyreek Hill's there, you'll see him, okay, let's throw him a little screen and get him just out running. Like, just get his legs moving, get him acclimated with the game. Like, let's just get him a little slant over the middle, little drag route. These easy ones that you can just get yourself going. This guy is the second most talented receiver you've ever played with. DeAndre Hopkins is there too, obviously. But this guy is one of the most just talented players you've ever played with offensively. Just get him the ball. I get it's week 1. Just give it to him. Watched him do it. He's really good. His dad also was really good too. Like he's good genes. He's doing okay. Give him the ball.
If what Kyler said was true, basically saying that this offensive game plan that they had did not feature Marvin Harrison,
that's a problem.
Then this is an offensive coordinator issue because there should have been 8 plays designed to get him the ball, whether it's a wide receiver screen behind the line of scrimmage or just there's so many different options. If he's coming out and basically saying, hey, our game plan didn't have him as my first read, and if he's even saying Marvin wasn't my second read, that's worrying. But it is week 1. I think it's a little early because, like I said, they were still in this ball game. They still could have won this ball game with this game plan. But I would like to see the full potential of this offense, which involves 10, 15 targets for Marvin Harrison. So,
yep.
I agree. My hand's not near the panic button, but I will say, I mean, as you guys know, I drafted him 2nd round in our league, right? So I wasn't encouraged by the stats, but I'm like, hey, we've seen weirder things in week 1, especially with rookies. I mean, Caleb Williams didn't even throw for 100 yards, right? But then you see that clip of him running down the sideline, like as open as all 3 of us are right now. Like, couldn't have been more open. And it's not like Marvin Harrison Jr. is Tyreek Hill size. He's not a small receiver. Like, how do you not see someone streaking down the sideline, like, wide open? So that was discouraging. And then the quotes today were also discouraging. So, no, I'm not panicking. I'm fully expecting him to have 6, 7, 8 receptions on Sunday. But, man, if he had like a 3 reception for, 30 yards or something like that coming out of Sunday, I'm going to start to think what's up. And I'd fully expect him to pick it up, but then I'd start to think it's a Kyle Pitts situation. But I don't know. It's something I'll be monitoring for sure, obviously.
Another thing with that, with the Marvin Harrison play where he's literally on the goal line, no defender within like 10 yards of him. If I remember the game correctly, Kyler Murray had rolled out to the left and was being chased down like the whole time. He would have had to throw across his body 50 yards downfield. It would have been a tough throw to make.
You had to Brett Favre.
Yeah, exactly. It could have just been a pick.
All right,
I feel like that's one of those things though that and this also speaks to kind of the youth and not Aaron Rodgers doesn't miss that. Like I just think that's a
depending on pressure. If it's like Tim.
Well, no, I just mean more so. I think pre-snap he sees that. Like I understand, like during the play it happens, but like the coverage, you know exactly what's going on. I understand the breakdown and coverage things like that have. So like I guess everyone misses somebody, but also I think that your great ones don't miss. Like I don't know. That's like that's on me terrible kind of thing. Not like that. Like take it up with my offensive coordinator. Like I think if anyone misses that, it's like my bad, my bad, Marv. I'll get you next time, Marvy.
That's just a super weird quote though from Kyler because I don't think you talk about the great ones. I don't think you hear even Aaron Rodgers as passive aggressive as he can be. You certainly don't hear Tom Brady say that, but I don't even think you hear most quarterbacks describe it that way, or at least not upper echelon ones. So that was funny, but
they understand that it's their job. Sorry.
I've got 3 more for you. They're regarding teams. Miami Dolphins win on Sunday. Is that underrated? Is that overrated? Or is that properly rated?
I will give my first overrated. I think they should have lost this game. They should have come out high flying. They should have put them away early. And they let the Jags kind of walk all over them for a long time. Something that surprised me this game, the Jags were in man coverage for over 70% of this football game. And they were playing Tyreek Hill, and they couldn't get – like, I get it, he had a great game, but a lot of it came on one play. If you're in man against Tyreek Hill, I'm expecting 200-plus yards. I am. And that didn't happen.
We've seen him do it in a quarter.
Exactly. I'm going to say overrated just because they should have beat the wheels off of the Jags, no doubt, and they didn't. They barely squeaked out a W thanks to a Travis Etienne fumble.
So I'm actually going to go the exact opposite of you, and I think it's a little underrated, and here's why. Those are the games that I feel that they lose. Those are the games where it's – and I understand what you're saying, and 2, you also are operating under the impression in your head, which I'm not saying you're wrong, the Jags aren't good. So when you think to yourself and you're like, okay, this team is not good, I don't think they're a good football team, you shouldn't even be in that position. And I'm operating, I think the Jags are better than you do, but regardless if you are, you still got into that position and you got yourself out of it. And you didn't get out of it because you got into a laser light show like you're able to at times because obviously you have a bunch of speed. You got in, you got back because you did make a great play at the goal line. And I understand that it happened. Like, I understand that's not a common thing, but he did go for the ball. He punched the ball and like he was actively going for it and he got it done. Like the same way in the Patriots game. Got it done. Like when you get those plays, you get those plays. So I want to credit the Dolphins for a resilient win. And again, 1-0 in the win column. So I think it's actually an underrated one because I don't think that's typically the Dolphins style of winning. Like if they would have won 38-35 just because they came back because they threw a bunch, I would not be as impressed as I was with that one where they held them down in the second half. The defense actually looked good. And it could be bad Jags, but I also think it could be good Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm completely with Keenan. That was a big boy win by the Miami Dolphins. Because it was a low-scoring game. They did it with defense. I mean, not great on ETN's part, but to make that play at the goal line and then to, capitalize off it. They even had some missed field goals in there too. and to still keep their cool, win a low-scoring game, and grind it out. Like Keenan said, that's a game we expect them to lose. That's exactly why I think you guys picked them to not make the playoffs. I think I did too ultimately, but
they're my 7th seed, and I have them out in the first round. I have them pretty much what they were last year. I have them this year.
Sure. So it was an impressive win, especially when you figure, like we talked about in our preseason look at this division, that their schedule starts off easy and then it gets very tough around week 12 or something like that. Like it's fucking brutal. It's basically a playoff schedule. So they needed this game. They very well could have rolled over. They very well could have just gone down 24-7 and then, maybe they still come back, but they likely don't. And they ended up winning this game. So I thought it was encouraging. Got to say, Tim, Brandon Petty, we'll have him on soon. He says he's got beef with you over the 5-12. Thought that was great. The people are intrigued by the Gabby cameos in the back with her just walking around. People love the random cameos. And Keenan, I forgot to mention this. Can't love the Dick's Sporting Goods, repping the squad right there. So.
Repping the brand. We're repping the brand.
All right, couple more for y'all. Cowboys win. Underrated, overrated, properly rated.
I'm just quickly going to go. I guess properly rated. If I'd lean the one way, it'd be overrated. I just think it's typical Cowboys. I like the Browns. I don't love the Browns. I have them at 7-10 this year, I believe I had them. I know I have them under 500 and missing the playoffs. I think that this team is solid. I do think it was... we also didn't talk about this clearly because it happened right before the game. Dak Prescott, 4 years, $250 million, $231 million guaranteed. Yikes. Wow. Okay. So you gave the house to Dak. You gave the house to CeeDee Lamb. You're going to give the house to Micah, and then what? We'll see what goes on with them in the next few years, especially the way these contracts are going to have to be. These contracts are going to have to be finagled for them to have those on the books and have pieces.
Time for them to win.
Yeah, no, it's what they're saying. What they're saying right now, Jerry Jones is saying, hey, Dak Prescott is the quarterback that can win us the Super Bowl. CeeDee Lamb is that guy, and then Michael Parsons is going to be that guy too, and we'll figure it out. But I think this is regular old Cowboys that they beat up on teams that they're much better than, and I do think that they're much better than the Browns. Better to much better.
I feel like you could definitely swing this either way. I don't think that this is a properly rated win. I think you can say it's an overrated win because a lot of people just picked the Cowboys to win. The defense is probably on the same level as the Browns defense, and the offense is definitely above it. Cowboys have one of the best offenses in the league. It's hard to say that, but it is true. They're definitely a top team.
That's what's so frustrating about them is they have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, and they have top 20 results. Like, they have a top 10 regular season every single year, and then they have top, literally bottom results in the playoffs, which is what's so frustrating about them as a fan of them. I mean, not me, but as if you were a fan of them.
Very true. The reason it could be underrated is because this is the Browns defense at home. People were expecting them to at least be formidable here. Like last year when the Browns played it, even with whoever they had DTR. I'm not sure if they had PJ Walker, whoever they had playing quarterback at the time. When they played the 49ers, that game was like 19-17. Super close, super defensive game. That's what I was expecting. But the Cowboys came out and they kind of just dominated right from the get-go. So that's why you could say it's an underrated win. I think I would lean underrated just because of the way they just dominated. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't need to run the ball. I was expecting them to be a little bit down on passing, and yes, the yards were, but the efficiency was not. So,
yeah, this is going to sound slightly hypocritical because I picked the Browns to win 17-16. But I'm going to say slightly overrated because the Browns were missing both of their starting tackles, which I should have factored into my pick, but whatever. I just think, look, Deshaun was under siege the entire game. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm kind of defending Deshaun Watson because a lot of people are calling for his job. But I don't think Tom Brady, who was commenting that game, we'll talk about that in a second. I don't think Tom Brady would have done well against that defense, down 2 tackles. Like, Deshaun had no time at all. And even when he did have time, he did overthrow some. But I thought I saw some good plays out of him, too, while under pressure. So I don't think it was a fair assessment of Deshaun. Can't believe I'm coming to his defense because, that's just a wild game to play anyway. But I just thought that defense would have looked that way against any quarterback that day, especially down 2 tackles. So slightly overrated. Didn't really see much out of their offense because they didn't have to do much, right? They had good field position a lot of the game. So overall, a good win for the Cowboys. I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you've got to feel great about that because, again, that's what you want to see when you're facing a lesser team or a team that's banged up. You want to see your team take advantage of that. And that defense looks lights out as it can, as we know it can. They're just so explosively athletic, more so than other teams on defense. So they're fun to watch, but I'm going to go slightly overrated. Last one for a team. You can kind of couple this with both teams who played on Monday night. We'll say this. Good Niners, bad Jets. Old first take, standby one right there. Good Niners, bad Jets. What y'all think?
Do you want it, Tim, or you want me to go first?
I can go. I'll make it quick. I actually wrote down here on one of my takeaways is that the Jets are going to jet. The Aaron Rodgers didn't get it done. They looked good on that first drive, and then after that it was just downhill. Completely outcoached. I do want to say I think Kyle Shanahan needs to be investigated for the CMC news. I think they knew he wasn't going to play. Jordan Mason got interviewed and asked when he knew he was starting. He said last Friday. And then the next time he was at a press conference, you could tell that he had just got his ass chewed out because he definitely leaked that information that they didn't want getting out. I think the CMC news is crazy that it came out not even 2 hours before the game. They're like, oh, by the way, CMC's not playing, even though all of camp, all of preseason, there hasn't been a lot of buzz on the injury. So that kind of like was a little weird to me. But I think without CMC, they still played a great game. So I think this is an underrated win for the 49ers because I wasn't expecting them to do as well as they did without CMC against the Jets defense, who was pretty good. And then an underrated loss because I was expecting the Jets to at least put up a fight, and they really didn't do that.
So I was expecting the Jets to put up a fight, and I don't know why I was. And the reason why I don't know why I was is because exactly what I thought was going to happen happened in their season, but I thought that they were going to play it closer. It doesn't make sense. Aaron Rodgers is going to come in against a team that's very good, and obviously he has no rapport with a lot of these people. That's why Allen Lazard led them in receiving, because he has to rapport with Allen Lazard more than anybody else on the roster. And it's fine. Like, him and Garrett Wilson weren't always on the same page of exactly where the routes were, like where to throw it, which is expected because they haven't played together. It's been 4 snaps, and like 3 of his 4 snaps were handoffs or whatnot to anyone. Like, he didn't do anything. So obviously he doesn't participate in the preseason. He was there for certain off-season workouts, but not a lot of them. And what's off-season workouts going to do? You're throwing against air or people without pads. So So it's not really anything for me. I think it's properly rated because the 49ers showed that they could run with anyone behind center, which we knew because literally whenever anyone gets injured, that running back typically goes for 100 yards. We've seen it over the last 5 years. Christian McCaffrey just makes it so they're like unfair. But like they'd have a 1,000-yard rusher with 75 to 80% of backs in the league. They do find good backups because Elijah Mitchell's been a good backup. Jordan Mason obviously ran well. So they find good backups, but nothing about this game really told me anything other than the Jets are going to come out rusty. But the good thing about the Jets is they do have a weaker schedule, and the fact that they play Tennessee next week, who obviously played the Bears tight. They got the Patriots, and that is a Thursday night game, so you have to swing back to the Patriots on a Thursday night game. That's going to be a little bit tougher, especially with a division game if the Patriots defense does show that they're good. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work through it, and can you get to the mid part of your schedule above 500? That'll be interesting to see. But I think properly rated because I think both teams did what they're supposed to.
Keen, you were very nice to the Titans right there, saying they played with the Bears because they should have won that game walking away. That was an interesting game by the Tennessee Titans.
So they played with the Bears. The Bears offensively didn't play great. The Titans offensively played right for a couple quarters.
Titans gave away that game. Literally gave away.
They absolutely. Will Levis said, "Here you go."
Did you see Callahan's quote on that game?
Except they punted on first down every time they win that game.
He said in the second half, if we just punted, we probably would have won that game on every first down. That's crazy. Week 1, not having any faith in your quarterback going forward. As Will Levis, I would hate that quote. I would just be like, well, now I don't want to play anymore. Like,
I'm relegated to no. That is
he's probably eating a tub of mayo as we speak. So
no, that's a crazy comment. That is a crazy comment. Yeah, we were better to just call the punter and literally sit Willie down for the second.
Yeah, we
half.
should have just taken a knee 4 plays, run out the clock a little bit, and then punt. Like,
yeah, because I mean they had Caleb Williams in hell. They truly did. Caleb Williams was not doing anything. I mean, it couldn't amass 85 yards, let alone 100 yards. I will say this about the Jets and Niners. I came away actually, I don't want to say impressed with the Jets, but better along than I thought, even for a blowout. I thought that win was more about the Niners. When we were doing our game picks, I said how I was completely prepared to take the Jets. And then the fact that they got everybody in the fold before week 1, talking about the Niners. And how the Niners looked like they were in midseason form last year in Pittsburgh, which is a tough place to play, no matter who the quarterback was in week 1 last year. I mean, the Niners made a statement. And even saying that, I never expected this win. To have 8 straight scoring drives in week 1 against a good defense, and they made the Jets defense look like any old defense, that's extremely impressive on the Niners' part. And once again, they made a statement. I mean, you almost have to reevaluate, because whatever you feel about the offensive side of the ball for the Jets, we would have thought their defense would have held up, and they got ran through and ran over. And, you guys are a bit younger than me, so you guys probably don't remember Mike Shanahan when he coached, but it was a thing when he was coaching the Broncos that you could put any running back there and they were going to succeed. Like whenever they changed over, whether it was Clinton Portis, from Terrell Davis, anybody, it was, you put anyone behind that offensive line in that zone running offense, they're going to succeed. And I got flashbacks to that because, as you guys said, CMC's out. They got the backup in, and he just tore it up. And that zone run just gave him problems. And Kyle Shanahan, man, he's becoming to me much like how Belichick was with his defense, where you could put anybody in there and you're going to succeed. And if you give him real talent, it's just going to put it over the top. That's the case with Shanahan. It doesn't even matter who's playing offense for him. They're going to succeed. But if you put Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and McCaffrey in that offense, you got damn near no chance. Unless
Trent
you got
Williams as your left tackle.
Williams. So,
which is why the Brock Purdy conversation makes it so interesting, because you gave, and that's fine. Not that he's not good. I'm not trying to make this seem like he's not good, but like you gave them the best crop of skill position players in the league. You get him the best blocking tight end, the best left tackle we've seen in a long time. And then you just have him kind of come in there. It's why you can be a 7th round, you can be Mr. Irrelevant and then come in and actually get to a Super Bowl as that within your second full year starting. So that's what makes the conversation with that interesting, is because how good it really is Kyle Shanahan. And that's what it's like. It'd be interesting right now to, like, if Brock Purdy just was, like, sat down, just randomly sat him down, and they just plopped Bryce Young today just in that offense and just see how good he is. It'd be interesting to see, like, because we've seen what Bryce Young is in Carolina, where it's like, you can't really he's not going to take lesser people. But if he had this offense, could he just propel it and make this offense that great? Or is it like how good Brock Purdy is? It's interesting.
I think
if
you put any average quarterback in San Francisco or Miami's offense, I think they're going to have successful results, right? I think they're just going to succeed. They're going to look good. They're going to look like the best version of themselves. That being said, if you put Aaron Rodgers or something like that in that offense, it's going to look insane. You know what I mean? You'd probably go 14-2 routinely, no matter who you played. That's how good that offense is.
They may not have lost games for 2 years with Brady. Like, it might have just been an undefeated streak. Like, if Mahomes was there right now, I understand him and Andy Reid is fake, but like, if you just brought like Andy Reid as your OC and then just said, "Hey, Patty, you're going over here," and then they would never lose.
I think you got to put Purdy, and we talked about this with the QB tiers. I think he's for sure top 12. Like, you got to put him there. He's had his results over the last season and a half.
I agree.
And for them, again, just to come out in week 1 against not a good defense, something most people would call a great defense, and just dominate. It says a lot about the Niners. I'm not worried about the Jets. I'm really not.
The point of
Not
attack,
yet.
too. Also, what was going on with Sauce Gardner? Because they said it wasn't injury related, so that
there was
kind of
definitely
concerned me a little bit.
There was definitely a play that looked like he got injured. He was very slow to get up. I think he got helped up, and then like the next play he was off the field, and then
Probably
he was
had
just on the
diarrhea.
sideline for a good portion.
Yeah, they said that he just for the rest of the first half he was on the sideline, and then they reported it was like, yeah, not injury concern, cleared everything, just on the sideline. And I was like, okay, did something happen? I don't know, but
Constipation.
it might be, but let's just one of the another weird Jets things where it's just like, what are they not doing? But hey, I mean, we'll see if the Jets can turn it around. They've got an easier part of their schedule. They definitely should beat the Titans this week. But hey, if they don't for some reason, probably time to panic.
I feel better about the Jets, right, going into this Titans game than I do against, like we mentioned before, the Falcons or the Bengals right now facing a lesser team. That's how I'd put it that's how I am with the Jets right now. Like even Rodgers showed me a little bit, as you said, he was keying on Lazard quite a bit, but even for him to catch someone off sides and get a touchdown off of that showed me something. And he was trying to throw the ball down the field.
The goat of that by a
the goat of that.
Literally 16 to the next guy with 8 touchdowns up there. He's the goat of it by a mile, and it's not even close.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to go back real quick to Burrow. There was a clip I wanted to mention. It showed him on that last drive. It was a 3rd and 10, back against the end zone. And he had, who's the Hungarian guy? He's a rookie receiver, Andres.
I can't think of his name, but I know what you're talking about.
But showed him running across the middle pretty open. And Burrow saw him, and he still checked down to his running back. So that's the kind of stuff that concerns me, again, going forward with the Falcons and Bengals rather than the Jets, where Aaron Rodgers, he might not look in midseason form, obviously. It's basically been 2 years off. But, he's at least got the courage to throw it down the field. He looked in command of the offense. Rusty, sure, but I got a little more faith. They just got too much talent all around offense and defense.
My concern with the Jets is that they may not be able to get it together in time with how loaded the AFC is. My concern, take the Bengals out of it. I'm not really concerned with them at the moment because I'm talking about Achilles specifically. My concern with the Falcons is that Kirk Cousins is not right. Aaron Rodgers, I watched Aaron Rodgers week 1, and I thought to myself, that looks like a healthy quarterback. I watched Kirk Cousins week 1, and I looked at that, and I thought, Michael Penix might be on. We might need to get Michael Penix in the bullpen early. So you're right in that sense, Kyle. Where it was more so just the rapport with people because he hasn't been there. That was really it for me. But he was rolling out of the pocket. They weren't afraid to move him. He was moving fine within. He was running a little bit too. So he looks fine. I'm not actually concerned about his Achilles. For him.
Last one for you guys.
Yep.
Tom Brady's debut in the booth. Didn't go very well at all.
I didn't watch the game in full, but I did like what I did here. You could tell he was a little nervous. But what are your guys' thoughts, Marcel?
Yeah, that was the nicest thing I've heard about his performance, honestly. But go ahead, Tim.
I think a lot of people hated it. I think social media didn't like it. I've definitely seen a lot of bad takes on it. The one thing that I noticed, has Tom Brady just had a lot of plastic surgery? His cheekbones,
definitely,
they're out. His teeth look like they're all completely fake. He looks like a goddamn mannequin doll.
He does look
kind of scary. Whenever they flip to him in the booth, it's like, oh God, that is not the Tom Brady. Put a helmet on that guy, quick. That's the only takeaway I got is they got to stop flipping to him in the booth, let him do his Tony Romo, and just let him go.
Yeah, it was bad.
I think that he.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kyle. No, you go.
Me? All right. Yeah. No, I thought it was bad. Obviously, watching enough of Tom Brady, just being the quarterback of the Patriots, seeing him in a press conference. His press conferences were nothing, right? And that was kind of the worry for people was, is he going to be entertaining at all? You take Peyton Manning, everyone said while he was playing, like, oh, he's going to be the next John Madden, right? Like, he would be perfect in the booth week 1. And that's kind of why people loved Romo at first, was because no one really expected it. And he was amazing. He was comfortable. Keenan, we talked about Dwayne Wade during the Olympics.
Great.
Seemed very comfortable in the booth. Tom Brady did not, which is fine. It's his first time ever doing it. That's completely fine. Whatever. That's not really my thing. My thing is, as I'm listening to him, he's trying to like talk in this commentator voice, which I can understand, because there's times when we're on here just talking football or basketball, and I feel like I get this fucking like ESPN annoying ass voice, and I hate it. I feel like I can like turn it on or off without me even realizing it. And he was doing this commentator voice when we've heard Tom Brady on podcasts, and we've heard Tom Brady in general just be a dick. Like, in general, he's not a nice guy. He's a dick, as you should be as a franchise quarterback. And we've heard him on these podcasts talking about like, oh, these quarterbacks, they don't have to deal with what I dealt with back in the day, which is hilarious because he played literally 2 years ago, and he's making it seem like he didn't play 2 years ago. But that's where Aikman, like, a lot of people didn't like Troy Aikman, and people are kind of like warming up to him now because he'll just kind of rip guys. And I expected Brady to do that, and I thought that was kind of going to be his niche, was getting on a quarterback, getting on a defense. And he was trying to be like too nice, like a regular commentator. So I'm not too worried about it, but I kind of am also because, I mean, I guess I don't think Brady's going to be doing this for 15 years, like an Aikman, like a Romo, any of those guys. I could see him doing it for 2 or 3 years. And honestly, if it continues this way, I could see it being a Jason Witten situation. Because, man, you compare that to Greg Olsen, who's now on the B team, who was really good. He was always really good. And they kicked him out for Brady, who doesn't seem like he's ready for prime time. So
I know what all of you are saying, and it makes complete sense. And I do agree, obviously, with his first time. It wasn't great. I think there were things, though, where, Kyle, you can kind of relate to this a little bit. If you ever have gone back and listened to our first podcast that we did, we sound so much different than we do now.
Yeah,
we sound so. It's like we were trying to be like we were just trying to be like, oh, we've got to do this and we've got to do that, and nothing sounded like natural. Like, oh, I can't believe you would say that, Kyle. Like, what? You don't talk like that. What are you doing? Like, what? Why are we doing that? Like, you would never say that, and you would never act like that. And I think he got into his head mindset of like, oh, this is how like commentators are. But
That's
no,
exactly,
you're not the play-by-play guy, Tom. You are the color commentator. The play-by-play guy needs to have a certain kind of tone. He needs to have a certain kind of the way he speaks, the way it's scripted. I know 'cause I'm in school for it right now. I know like the way that it's supposed to be structured and formulated. Obviously, you're supposed to be authentic in yourself, but the way it's structured, formulated, and all that good stuff, you're supposed to have that. And the great ones, Mike Tirico, Joe Buck, Al Michaels, all of them, they are able to take what you're supposed to do and then put their own authentic twist on it. Tom, you're there because you are a God-gifted athlete and phenomenal at football. And you see things on the field where you can look at the play for 3 seconds and be like, yep, that's cover 3 right here. That running back, what you should do, split out, basically. And you can just tell me what the play is going to be before you see it. I know you can. You're literally, arguably, the smartest quarterback that's ever played. Obviously, Peyton Manning, all these other great ones are very smart.
Jamarcus Russell.
That was the thing with Romo, is like Romo was calling out the play. Oh, look at that. It's going to be a run right up the middle right side. And it would be a run right up the middle right side. It was to the point where people were getting annoyed with him because he would call out the play before. And it's like, tone. Like, we want to watch the game too. But once he gets himself into that, like, I don't have to be a certain way. They just are paying me to be myself. I think he's going to be okay. Because I think he will, like Aikman. You're right, Kyle. Is not afraid to just, like, rip somebody. Like, nah, it's bad. Even Chris Collinsworth is not afraid at sometimes to be like, no, that wasn't good. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know what this guy's doing at all. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's Tom's personality. He just needs to allow him to be that and not try to be what the play-by-play guy is. You are the color commentator. Just be you, and that's what we want.
Yeah, it's funny because Bill Belichick's on like 6 different shows. Like, he's doing a ton of media. And I actually didn't catch any of it, not even the Manning cast. And It's
said
weird.
something about Jaden Daniels, or like he said something about Caleb Williams week 1 that kind of went like the people were like really on. But other than that, I didn't really see much.
I'll have to look it up. But it's interesting seeing media Belichick. It's interesting that he's on social media. I kind of like Belichick without social media, and, just him being the regular old Bill Belichick. But
He had a mystique to him. Where you
had a
kinda
mystique
liked.
to him. Yeah, now they're turning now he's like Santa Claus. Like I don't know how I feel about that. Like I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be fun because he is incredible to listen to talk about football, especially when he gets like really into the details of it. Last one. I don't know. Keem, do you have any like ringing topics you want to bring up?
No, actually, I like this. The only thing I wanted to quickly say before you get into that was, I think that it would be really cool. Obviously, how Eli and Peyton do their kind of thing. I think if they did a post game with Brady and Belichick, I think that would be really cool.
I paid money to see that. If they were getting into real details of the game, I would pay money to see that.
I think that if Tom Brady doesn't work out in the booth, because not everybody, that doesn't mean he's a bad person, but obviously the thing that's great with him is his mind. And I think if you were to sit down him and Bill Belichick weekly and have them just break apart multiple aspects of a game where they get to see it, watch it, break it down, and then they can be as animated, or they can rip people as much as they want to rip them, because you cannot tell me. I understand Bill Belichick was on Tom Brady's head every single day, pause if need be, but you can't tell me they didn't have conversations together where this guy's so bad, what are we doing? Bill, do you see this? This guy's awful. And I think putting that together would be fun.
Go look up, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, go look up the clip from Bill Belichick's Football Life documentary with him and Brady on their Monday meetings about their upcoming matchup. It's some of the best stuff you'll see. It's a clip of them going over Ed Reed, I think, and it's good insight. It's very good insight.
I think I would love that. I think that helps me learn. And so I think that would be really cool. You don't have to do much of the entertainment stuff. You just break down football for me, and I think that'd be great. But what's your last point?
I just want to say this past Sunday was very interesting before we even got the first kickoff, right? We had Tyreek Hill getting arrested, and we also
Scotty Sheffy, part 2.
Yeah, right. The other big news, though, and this is very relevant to us because we actually worked this in as a prediction in our final prediction podcast, and we talked about at least the last 2 years, certainly last year, how we forgot to do this prediction. We're talking about the Super Bowl halftime show. And lo and behold,
I didn't say Kendrick Lamar.
Lo and behold, 12:30 comes and we get the Super Bowl halftime performer, and it's Kendrick Lamar. Huge news. And apparently, as Keenan said, he drops a song on Instagram. I got to listen to that after this podcast. Black Forces, cool. A lot of people upset that it's not Lil Wayne, which I get, but I feel like the blowback was way too much. It doesn't seem like, I don't see a lot of hometown artists getting their hometown Super Bowl. It happened with Snoop and Dre, but they're such legacy acts. They're 30 years in. For Kendrick to get this though off the year he had, it's going to be crazy.
It makes too much sense to have Kendrick Lamar. That's why right now I don't know why I didn't think of him. Obviously Lil Wayne comes to mind because it's he openly said yeah, I would do it, and then obviously it's in his home state, so it's okay, it makes sense. But think about it. You have Kendrick Lamar, who's had probably the biggest rap song probably since Bad and Bougie, if not bigger than that. He's had obviously Not Like Us is massive. He just came off of one of the biggest beefs of all time, probably him or the Jay-Z Nas for the most notable music beef of all time, just off of names alone. And it's he's gonna have a new album that's coming out within, either the promo for the album is going to be with the Super Bowl, or it's gonna come out before the Super Bowl. He's got the hits, he's got everything about it, and also last but not least, he gets to now have people just clown Drake one more time. That's what he's gonna do. And so I can't wait until it's gonna be with the trumpets playing at some random game too. We're gonna see it at a college game. It's gonna be Georgia versus somebody, and you're just gonna hear Not Like Us in the background with the trumpets, and it's gonna go great. But it makes too much sense. I understand Lil Wayne makes sense too, but it makes too much sense not to have Kendrick. Timmy, do you have any thoughts on Kendrick Lamar being in the halftime show?
I think it's going to be a great show. I'm just looking forward to the more hate on Drake, like you said. I'm curious how many of the diss tracks you think they're going to put into that show. You think it's just going to be Not Like Us, or you think there's going to be quite a few?
I think he might try to put I think I might try to put Euphoria. I don't think like that would be there, but I think it might be.
He did beat the
I could see him doing the same thing that he did for his Ken and Friends concert. But also, I mean, what I kind of was thinking about the whole time was like him having a verse on First Person Shooter. That's what I was thinking the whole time. It's just like biggest the what? Biggest the what? Biggest the Super Bowl, and then him just go. That's what I've been thinking the whole time. And Kendrick's petty enough to where that would happen, but I don't think actually
He
it's
did a
gonna
first-person
happen.
shooter freestyle. Yeah, I mean, my takeaway when I saw it was I was like, damn, I didn't know Roger Goodell hated Drake too. Like, that's all I could think, because we know Not Like Us is coming, and we know we're gonna get Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile, like millions of people screaming it. So yeah, that was my main takeaway, was like, wow, Roger Goodell also hates Drake for some reason unknown, must be, because I mean, damn, we're piling it on here. And it sucks that Wayne didn't get it. I never really expected him to get it, but I mean, he did openly pine for it, and people are blaming Jay-Z for it. I don't think Jay-Z actually hand selects him, if I had to guess. I'm sure he has a lot of input. He obviously is like the creative mind behind it, but I don't think he directly chose Kendrick over Wayne. And, you know, who's more safe to put on there, Lil Wayne or Kendrick? Like, for your very mainstream audience, literally everyone in America is going to be watching. Yeah, they're going to put Kendrick on before Wayne. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I hate to see the outcry of it. Nicki Minaj had another fucking outburst about it, and I thought it was just, I don't think Jay-Z hates Lil Wayne in any way or is envious of him. So I thought the blowback was
Nicki's gonna
insane.
have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Of course Nicki's gonna have a problem with it. She's gonna be Team Drake over Team Kendrick all day, every day. And so, like,
But she's
probably upset too.
She was trying to make it a Jay-Z Lil Wayne thing, and I don't think it's that at all. Like, they've shown
she's probably upset too because she's not on stage. She was like,
Right.
Wayne's gonna bring me out. We're gonna do prom queen. We're gonna do not prom queen. We're gonna do a knockout.
Just as bad. Bad.
1, 2, 3, get the referee. He can't get the knockout.
Thank you for that,
I would
Keenan.
have ended up like seeing green or something. But
Let's
anyways, yeah.
We do have a Thursday night game. Bills Dolphins
Yes, we do
in
have a
Miami.
game.
We will be doing our Friday picks off camera, so you will see those this weekend, but you will not see our pretty faces on the screen giving you the picks. We will be back for that in week 3, but we will give you week 2 Thursday night football. Bills at Dolphins. Keenan, Tim, either one of you want to start?
Tim, you start. I'm going to bring up the spread for it right now because I think it's 2.5. Dolphins actually are favored because they are at home.
Dolphins are definitely favored last I saw. I believe it is 2.5. If not, it's 3.5. But I think 3.5 is a little steep. After seeing the Bills pick up right where they left off, and the Dolphins kind of struggle week 1, I am going to take the Bills in this game. The only redeeming factor is that Miami's at home. They get their weather. They don't have to travel. And I could see them winning this game, but I'm going to pick the Bills here, and I think it's going to be 27-23, right in that range. But give me Buffalo all day long.
All right, yeah, I think it is Miami by 2.5, or favored by 2.5, that is. And for me, I've got the Buffalo Bills as well. I just think that everything that the Buffalo Bills can do is replicable. I don't know if the Miami defensive performance is. I understand that holding Tyreek Hill is very tough, but I think that I need to see this happen more for the Dolphins before I believe they can win this way. They've showed they did it once, but I need to know. The Bills can win in a shootout. I understand Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis aren't there, but Josh Allen is good enough to, regardless, they can win in a shootout. I mean, they just won 34-28, I believe. So, like, that's a high-scoring game. But we all believe if we heard the game was 20-17, who are we picking? Be the Bills. It means that the James Cook controlled the ground. Defensively, both teams are going well. And what quarterback do you trust to make a play the most down late? I mean, Josh Allen can lose you a game. He can throw you one every now and again, but so can Tua. But I definitely feel Josh can win you a game. With it being a Thursday game, those are wacky sometimes. 23-17 Buffalo is what I got, but I also could see this being in the 30s. But I got 23-17 Buffalo and kind of a little bit of a wackier one where both offenses don't really get going.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's the home team. I think Buffalo's style of play is one you'd pick to win this game. Buffalo's defense didn't really look great. Arizona did whatever they wanted, really, in Sunday's game. So I'm inclined to pick the Dolphins, and it's going to be 90 degrees and humid tomorrow in Miami, a chance of thunderstorms. So it's also advantage Miami. But you just think, like, no Raheem Mostert tomorrow for Miami, by the way. So you would just think that Buffalo, with their running game and how they can control the clock, that would lend to them. But just like how the snow is an advantage for them in December, January, maybe late November, the heat and humidity is an advantage for Miami. But I still lean Buffalo. I'm going to say 21-17 Buffalo for right now, but would not be surprised to see Miami win. That was the most bitch-ass hedge I've ever said in my life. Like, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised to see Miami win. But I'm going to roll with the Buffalo Bills for tomorrow just because of their style of play.
Alrighty, so Timmy, you have the Bills 27-23, correct? Kyle, you have them 21-17.
Sure.
And I have them 23-17. We all have the Buffalo Bills.
So you have a tie, 18-18.
And so, say this happens, are we concerned a little bit at all about the Miami offense?
No.
I mean, we both have them scoring under 20. I mean, they scored only 20. I mean, to him, he has them at 23.
I have them scoring under 20 because it's a Thursday game.
Okay.
Week 2 Thursday at that. So it should be low scoring, but it very well could be high scoring just because everyone's tired too. But you factor in the humidity and all that and the chance it could be rainy, it should be low scoring anyway. So, no, it has nothing to do with Miami's offense. If this was a Sunday game and this was the same matchup, I'd probably pick it, 28-25 either way. You know what I mean? So,
okay.
My score is strictly.
I wasn't sure if we were a little worried about it, obviously, after the Week 1 performance, or if it was because I'm not too concerned about it. I think that their offense is exactly what their offense is. When they're rolling, they're great, but I think that sometimes they can't face adversity because they don't have that toughness to their offense. But we'll see if they can continue.
I think as long as they have fair weather or a dome, they're pretty hard to stop no matter what. Unless you get a bad 2 a day, it's going to be hard to stop them. I did want to say Miami did this quite a bit, but I wanted to bring it up in general because I saw quite a few offenses do this, and it annoys me to no end. Whether it's like on a 3rd and 12, throwing behind the line, that irritates the hell out of me. I cannot stand when I see an offense do that. And I saw Miami do that quite a bit, which it can work for them. They have enough speedsters. But they seem to be in 2nd and 12, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10 and beyond, just a lot. And, of course, Miami, because they're so explosive, they can convert that. But, it's one thing when you see them run a swing pass on a 3rd and long. You don't love it, but you're like, okay, Achane, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, they can pick that up. But when you see, like, Tennessee doing it or any of these lesser offenses, it just annoys the fucking hell out of me. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I never understand it. And you'll see guys do that mid-season, 3rd and 9, critical 3rd down, and you just run a swing pass for your back or a screen pass for your wide receiver who's not a burner. So I just never understand it when I see that type of play calling.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But anything else anyone has? Any lasting points before we are out of here for the night?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, this was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Kyle, as always, of course. As Kyle said, we'll be having those picks out before Sunday's game. We'll probably have a graphic for the Thursday night football game as well. Kyle, I will see you in Nashville here soon, very soon. Yeah. Timmy, crazy. We'll
be watching the Thursday night game together, actually.
We will be. And Timmy, I will see you
If I don't have a migraine.
sometime.
Next year for the NFL draft.
I probably will see you before that, to be quite honest with you. But Warner Brothas Podcast here, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all Warner Brothas Podcast. Appreciate all of you guys. We'll see you guys soon.